I mean, inflation prints are dumb. Let's face it. I mean, we get that number, it comes out once a month,
If you ask
but it's
Stephen
one
Myron,
number.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's one number, and it's supposed to capture all the goods in the economy. All of them, all the goods and services in the economy, and that's insane. So do you remember a little while back, there were these news articles that said something like experts are saying inflation is low, but voters feel a lot differently about them? Do you remember that whole vibe? That went on for a little
Yeah,
while.
like
People were,
2023, 2024.
yeah, exactly. Experts, even now, in a sense, I think it's still a tail to this affordability thing that Trump is pushing, and that word is coming up a lot.
Yeah.
People are still hurting at the grocery store. Hey guys, look, inflation's back down to 2%. Just calm down. But then people are like, no, this sucks.
But that's like the classic inflation prices thing.
What?
So
What do you mean?
consumers see prices, they don't see inflation. So after you had 10% inflation in 2022, prices were still high. People never got used to those high prices.
A study came out just this past week from the New York Fed called A New Reason to Hate Grocery Inflation. Basically, they were finally able to put some numbers to what people were really feeling in terms of the pain. Because like that 9% is just one number. But if you look at it as like a distribution of households, and you said, okay, at the household level, what was the distribution of inflation that they felt at the grocery store? Yeah, the mean was at 9%. But the standard deviation, like the range of what people were getting was huge. And sometimes at the tail end, for 1 year, the increase was like 20%. I wanted to dig into this.
Substitutability, I think is the word.
So, okay, we're going to get to that, Joe. Slow it down.
Sorry,
Slow
I
it down,
didn't.
Joe. So again, there was a big divergence happening between what the experts were saying, right? Don't worry, guys, disinflation, lecture people on the difference between disinflation and deflation and what you guys are really feeling. And then people saying, look, this really hurts. Prices are way too high. And we got to actually see this in action because not all goods are changing in price at the same rate, even within the same product type. But like before we get into that, I just want to, as someone who deals with data a lot and really respects data, the crazy thing is the data used. I don't know if you've heard of the Nelson IQ Consumer Panel. Have you ever heard of that?
I,
You have.
I
Okay.
I couldn't
Okay.
define it for you, but I'm vaguely familiar.
It's a data set. So imagine 40 to 60,000 households. Going back to 2004, they track the purchases using barcodes. So those are the universe product codes, and they tracked 1.4 million different codes at the household level. So they would know the product, the description, the brand, the price, multi-pack, even the flavor of the stuff that they were buying over this time period, whether or not they use deals or coupons. Amazing stuff, I got to say, just like what you could do with that. The other thing that this study used, it was a complementary data set. This is a second data set, but it was from the retailer side. So this is the Nielsen IQ retail scanner data, and it had 90 retail chains across 35,000 to 50,000 physical stores, and it grabs that data weekly. And this one covered 2.6 to 4.5 million barcodes, basically. And this was food and non-food items. That data was available back to 2006. Although for this study, they were more interested in stuff from 2020, the beginning of COVID and all that. So that first off, that's wild. Okay. What did they find with all that data? Well, they found that households experienced inflation much, much differently. It was a much more heterogeneous experience. It was not a homogeneous one. In a typical year, you can imagine sort of a normal distribution. There's a very, very high just concentration around a mean of like 2% or something. But when inflation hits, that normal distribution graphs gets flattened and spread way out. And the mean just blows out, this time to like 9%. And the 2% thing with really long tails going all the way up to like 20%, all the way down to 0%. And that's what people in reality were experiencing all along that range. So they also found the same thing happened with individual products. So they have like a box and whiskers graph, except it's much more stark for a couple things. And in the study, they looked at a couple. They looked at coffee, frozen chicken, and men's shaving cream. And you can see really in 2022 in particular, that box of whisker chart just gets blown way out. And like the very, very top of it, there were some brands in certain locations, certain households that were seeing increasing in prices of like 40%, right? In 1 year.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, that's painful.
And again, 40%, we're talking like shaving cream or something. So a move from $5 to $7 is not necessarily something that you would even register. Like if you asked me right now, how much is your shaving cream? I couldn't tell you exactly how. I could give you a ballpark number, but like I don't really note the prices, they're just small, but they add up.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing, and this is to your comment earlier, that was uncalled for, Joe, about substitution and stuff. They really didn't find that people substituted. Even though these prices were getting out of control, they didn't substitute for cheaper brands.
Really?
And that's really an important point. Yeah, you're kind of furrowing your eyebrows there, right? Mr. Economist,
yeah,
do you all think there are these...
That was like my primary guess.
All they think of this, mythical, super rational consumer out there that like, oh, see prices go up over here, it's a substitute, I'll go buy this one. No, people don't do that. And I think it's mostly because they're not like actively tracking the price of their coffee, or they just assume that all prices are going up the same rate. I don't know what it is, but that was definitely, I think,
like some people, not everyone has the luxury to not pay attention to the prices.
So Joe, let me ask you another question then. They also broke this down by demographic. So they looked at, okay, did everyone experience that same distribution shift, even if they were, by income, by age, employment, race, household size, population density? Of those different demographic lines, which one do you think actually sort of reacted more to the inflation changes across their basket or shopping cart or whatever of goods? Some groups might be more or less susceptible.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, I mean, like lower income, you can't, like if you're already buying the cheapest thing, then you can't substitute further. So they naturally experience higher inflation rates from that angle. And maybe like elder folks are more price conscious, cost conscious. If younger people don't really care as much, Luke, about your shaving cream, some people care about that stuff. But yeah, if that's what I just go for the pretty bottle, lower income, maybe higher age.
Yeah, very logical, Joe. Very straightforward. Wrong, Joe. Wrong. No, they didn't see any difference across any of there's this cool segment where they put all of them on top of each other and they were just like all the same. It didn't matter. Like every group collectively kind of experienced that same distribution shift. It's not as though low income people went and tried to fight for the cheapest stuff all the time.
Okay, they
just grabbed the same.
Interesting. So two demographics, same income bracket, same age bracket, still had a huge, or those fat tails in the distribution.
Right. So they plucked out and they looked at, broke it up by income bracket, and they said what were the different income brackets distributions, and they were all just right on top of each other every single time.
Wow.
Across everything, race, household size, age, everyone had like the exact same distribution. It's wild. Like I would have definitely expected some change, if nothing else, to your point, like the income, for instance. Even kind of lower income houses, you might expect them to take action to start tracking the price. Nope. Not what they saw.
Well, but by virtue of the fat tails, like some did, some didn't. Is yes, what that means.
But not at a rate, right? Not at a rate or something at a bit that was different from any of the other groups. They didn't have like a higher propensity to do that. And ipso facto, they were able to kind of change the shape of the distribution.
Interesting. So regardless of where you live, what your income is, some people naturally are going to cut costs more aggressively than others.
Well, that's all I got for you today, Joe. Hope you enjoyed that. This has been another episode of the Root of All Evil podcast. My name is Luke.
I'm Joe,
I'll see you next week.
and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye.
See ya.